going to start recording the meeting. Okay, so Todd?
Yep.
Okay.
Should see my slides.
Looking good.
Great. So thank you for organizing this, and I'll try to do the topic justice. I'm not quite the same speaker as Jerry Johnson, but I'll do my best. So this is, we're going to fly through certain slides just because I really do want to get more into the meat of the technology. So hang on for the brief introduction, and my expectation is that you can all go to the Geo Platform and actually play with the application while I ramble along to fill your time. So we're developing the Geo Platform in a very agile manner, and we're trying to get 4 to 5 releases done per year. Right now, what's in production is release 3, and release 4 is going live next couple weeks. It's just in final UAT right now. So for those that aren't familiar with the newer versions of the platform, it has a complete new look and feel. There is an open source map viewer in there, as well as an entire ArcGIS Online account that's available to all the federal partners. It's available to everyone for read access, and for federal partners, you can actually get rights to publish and use some of the things that consume credits. And we have unlimited storage and credits available for the federal partners. Some of the things you can do through the platform are create and embed map galleries. It has a portfolio management capability section where we work with the FGDC to measure the maturity of the various, what we call NGDAs, National Geographic Data Assets. There's 170 plus of those across the key themes of the FGDC. An enriched geospatial marketplace where the intent here is to enable collaboration when federal agencies are going out and collecting data. Specifically, the program we're highlighting is the LIDAR and 3-depth program out of USGS. And the whole platform is backed up and sitting on Amazon Web Service Infrastructure. So if you were to go to Geoplatform.gov, you'd see a new landing page and a bunch of the things that are on this slide. I think the key takeaway from a technology standpoint is we are an open source project. We are documenting and doing this through a set of microservices. We don't have our API published yet, but that's one of the things to be looking forward to. One of the exciting things that we have, though, is an operations and development environment that allows us to roll releases out with very little human intervention from the time we drop code in our repository to the time that it gets tested and deployed is a machine-driven process. So the release 3, which really gave the overhaul, went live in February. It is a much greater enhanced experience, and the CMS, or the web part, the non-geospatial part of the platform, is all responsive design. We base things on cards, and they scale nicely to whatever size screen you're working with. Some of the functionality, your identity and access management. We are partnered with data.gov. We are actually their service provider for identity and access management. So if you already have a data.gov account, you can use those same credentials to get into the platform. Let's see. Yeah, we'll skip right over this.
Hey, Todd?
Yes.
Hey, are you going to kind of, maybe it would be good to just kind of explain what Geoplatform does, like what its functionality is, or
yeah, you're right. I kind of made a giant leap. I'm used to talking to audiences that are familiar with it. Let me take a giant step back and give people some context of why the Geo Platform came about. So back around the time of the BP oil spill, the federal response was having difficulty creating an integrated operating picture, specifically on the public side, for communicating the different geospatial assets that were being brought to bear to manage the response. So NOAA had a viewer, Department of Interior had some views, EPA had some views, and it was really difficult to collaborate in an environment where information could be put out in formats that could be scaled and consumed by other audiences. And that use case, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a hurricane or a federal response for an oil spill or even agencies collaborating around something like sage-grouse management, highlights the need for a geospatial environment that multiple agencies can leverage and use without duplicating their efforts to provide public services that can be widely leveraged. And from an FGDC standpoint, we want to make sure that the investment we've made in the national spatial programs across our agencies, that data is readily discoverable and available through services to a variety of constituents. So those were some of the drivers behind the creation of the Geo Platform.
So is the Geo Platform actually providing the services, or is it just consuming the services, or both? Or
it's both. One of the design considerations was we did not want to disrupt the existing set of catalogs that are used to curate geospatial metadata and even non-geospatial metadata. So that the data.gov concept, right? There used to be a specific portal that looked at just geospatial information. Well, over the years, we've married with data.gov, and all that metadata is curated through data.gov. But that's not really a rich geospatial experience. In fact, when you go to search data.gov for geospatial information, you know, you get the metadata, and you may or may not find service endpoints to the data itself. So one of the things we're working hard on is to create a search, discovery, and exploitation environment where not only can you search and find the metadata, but you actually find the services that you're looking for and can quickly derive value from the data within those services in a much more machine-to-machine type environment.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Okay. And again, from an account management standpoint, because this is federated across the federal community, we needed a neutral space, so we stood up an account management and IAM that supports that. So anyone can get an account here, whether you're federal or non-federal, and create and save resources.
Okay.
There is, you know, like a map viewer, which, you know, you have a couple options here. You could use the AGOL Esri flavor, or you could use this open source viewer that we've put together. Allows you to go through, and the data sources that you're searching against are what's coming as metadata out of data.gov that have a flag for a geospatial. So I think there's a couple 100,000 assets now in data.gov that are geospatial in nature. And in the map viewer, you can search through those records, find the ones that you're interested in, and if the data is in a format that's available to a map, you can drop it right into your map. And then you can save these maps and share them, whether that's through a URL or embedding them in a third-party site.
And so those are services like Esri REST, WMS, WFS, etc.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can drop in, if you have local data, you can upload that to a limited extent into our map viewer. Now, if you're a federal partner, we can give you rights to do some of that upload into the AGOL environment and publish that way. But again, and then it would be available to the platform and others. The map manager concept is, as you know, if you're familiar with ArcGIS Online, at this point, I think we're up into nearly 1 million maps that are in ArcGIS Online that have been created and published. So one of the concepts that interests us is maybe you have a specific topic area you're interested in and you want to follow the 6 maps that are related to that topic. You can, discover those maps, put them into your own map manager, and keep tabs on them through the Geo Platform. Or take that entire gallery that's been created and embed that into third-party sites. And it doesn't matter if the map is residing in, the Forest Service AGOL account or USDA's, or excuse me, DOI's accounts. You can mix and match from across the rich set of information that's already out there. And it doesn't have to be an Esri map either. I mean, if you actually create a map inside the Geo Platform using the open source tools and save that map and publish it for others to see, you can embed that map into your gallery. And these galleries can be open to others, or you can keep them closed as a collaboration between work that's in progress. So I've already talked through a little ArcGIS Online integration. One of the things we've done here, though, is once you have your Geo Platform account, you can use those same credentials to sign into ArcGIS Online. So there's no need for duplicative identities across the 2 environments. The performance dashboard, this part of the platform is really designed around the management tools that are needed to manage the federal geospatial resources. So we have things, right now it's closed to basically members of the FGDC and those that are managing data on behalf of the FGDC. But within the next month or so, we will be making that information widely public. And so right now, if you go to the platform, you probably wouldn't see much in the performance dashboard because you don't have the rights to see it. But we are working with the FGDC to make that information publicly available. One of the key things outside of the maturity of a data set that interests me and interests probably lots of you as developers, how many times have you generated a map based on a set of services, come back to either that map or the application and found that half the services were down or not performing in a way that made for a rich user experience? So one of the concepts we're doing is we're actually measuring the reliability of services. And from that, you can get an indication ahead of time if you want to use that service or not, based on your application or map's need. So you see a reliability and a speed indicator of how well the service itself is performing. And as you're using the map manager, and say you found one of these layers through your search and discovery process, we actually give you a little icon of green, yellow, and red that summarizes the availability and speed. So you can kind of choose caveat emptor on working with your services.
So Todd, this is available to everyone or just the FGDC folks?
That part is available for everyone. At this point, there are only about 100 services that we've loaded into the registry for performance monitoring. We're in a big push right now to make sure that each of the core 170 plus themes and the services supporting those themes and layers get registered. And soon, when we make that performance dashboard available, you'll be able to register your own services and get that performance information on your own without having to go through one of us.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
No worries. What's coming in the next couple weeks is really an upgraded marketplace. Again, that's the area for collaboration around federal geospatial investments. So you'll see, a map viewer that's tailored to the acquisition that you might be interested in. For example, if you're going out and looking for who else is collecting batho LiDAR in your coastal area, you'll see what's in the works, what's planned, what might already be under contract, and things like that. So how is all this being done? Lots and lots of virtual machines. Our architecture is to really scale, and we do this by the key components of the application and the platform have their own set of virtual machines, redundant virtual machines. So for example, for the identity and access management, it's running in a VM that is load balanced between Amazon East and Amazon West, and that the portal piece of the application is the same way. The CMS, which for those that want to know is Drupal, is in its own micro VM. Survey component, so we use a tool called Lime Survey, which allows the FGDC and other agencies to design management surveys and then put that out for others to fill in. The map viewer, that's what WMV is, another core component. This concept of a registry is its own component, and I'll speak more to that in a little bit. And our service checker, the performance dashboard, map manager, all separated. What this does is allows us to roll out patches and code without disrupting other pieces of the application or the platform. Any questions on the high-level cloud stuff?
Folks, and I muted everybody, so you have to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question.
Or they could, if they want to put it into the chat for all, I can see as we go.
Okay.
That would be.
Rich, okay. I think that we do have a question in the chat.
Oh, Martin Arzan, look at that. Okay, what's open source and what's not? So the IDP is open source, the portal is open source, the CMS is Drupal, which is open source. The survey is not, although actually I'm not positive. The map viewer is open source, the registry is open source, the service checker is open source, the performance dashboard is open source, and the map manager is open source. What is not shown on this diagram is the entire AGOL piece of the infrastructure, which is Esri, but is also running in a combination of AWS and Microsoft environments. At the database stack, it's Mongo and MySQL. Next slide.
One of the reasons to ask that, people may have seen the White House policy on source code development, and following that I was wondering, is there a plan to make this code that was developed here available for reuse?
Absolutely. So thanks for that question. Right now we're basically doing the concept of dog fooding, or eating our own dog food. So we have a series of APIs that we are using internally to develop the next release. And as part of that development process, we're shaking out the APIs and documenting them more fully so that the rest of the community can leverage them in the future. So we're hoping that in either release 5 or release 6, we will publish our APIs as well as the code behind that into GitHub. This diagram basically, so we have our development environment, a staging environment. Once the code gets dropped into this nice S3 bucket, it gets picked up, spun up, then we can review it, work out the kinks, and from there push to production. And depending on the size of the patch, these things run from minutes to a half hour. One of the things that we're also providing is a set of cloud hosting services for our federal partners. And it really comes in a couple different flavors. Obviously, the platform as a whole is really platform as a service, and that's open to everyone. And separately, we have under contract a set of managed GIS infrastructure as a service, which is where we'll provide clients, and this is for a fee, this part of it, that want to stand up their own Arc server. We have a secure image of that we spin up and manage on their behalf. And when I say manage on their behalf, that's really from the OS up through the server, the Arc server, or if you're running something out of the Boundless stack, you want a Geo server, we have a secure image for that we can spin up and host for customers. And I mentioned the software as a service. And someone asked me, is any thoughts towards catching performance persistence related data issues or only pulling endpoints as is? I'm going to get to that because that's a great question. What are we working on right now for release 5 and 6? So that's the June, July, and September timeframes. One key thing is a concept that we're calling a map knowledge graph. And that's basically if you were to think about a map and the core components of a map, and this is a web map, right? We all can think about the components of a paper map. They're similar. A legend, a map has a legend, a map has attributes, a map has a purpose. Those are attributes that help describe that resource. And the map has layers. Those are, again, attributes of the map. And we're working under this concept of building a knowledge graph around maps, which for those that are into semantic web really helps improve the search and discovery aspects. One of the things that we'd like to work on first and foremost, because we think it has the most benefit that we can achieve quickly, is the concept of a layer recommendation service. So we all know that when you search data.gov or any other large catalog that is just a text-based driven search, you get more results than you can handle. And then it requires additional manual exploration to really find what you're looking for. Well, wouldn't it be nice to have more like the Amazon Marketplace experience that says, hey, if you like this, would you consider this? Except for layers. So if you're working on a map that's about sage grouse and sage grouse breeding areas, it might be able to suggest a layer that other maps that have used sage grouse breeding have included. So that's the big piece we're working on. And In my additional slides, I think I'll get into the how we're crafting that and architecting that. In the map viewer, as you create new maps, it's going to be kind of this interface that helps you build in the additional attributes that will improve others' ability to search and find that map in the future. It's kind of, like the step 1, add this, step 2, add this. It's not going to be mandatory, but the user will get visual clues, and the map at the end will get a rating on how open it is on a scale of like 1 to 5. If you think about linked open data and that type of scale and availability, those factors go into that. Let's see. Really just goes into some of our philosophies. And again, we're starting to bleed between search and linked open data world and the geo world. So for those that aren't familiar to semantic web and linked open data, some of these techniques are going to be a little new to you. But I think the takeaway message is it's done through a set of series of microservices and grounded in a set of standards that are pretty widely adopted. So this concept of a registry is really the core. And when someone was asking, are we going to capture attributes about, other attributes about the services besides the performance attributes? Yes. And that would be stored as an auxiliary component of one of our key registries. So it might have a map similarity index as a component, meaning this map is similar to these other maps based on an algorithm. Or it might have attributes such as how widely used is that layer. How many other maps have that layer in it? Stuff like that starts going into these auxiliary services built around our common registries. So how do we build a registry like this, knowing we're in a very decentralized environment? Well, we start with the core metadata that's coming from data.gov. We pull in that metadata and we parse it, and we populate our registries based on the data that's available to us. For data that's the NGDAs, those core FGDC data sets, we'll be supplementing the metadata with additional information. And then, there's a bunch of fun search stuff that goes on, indexing across spatial, temporal, lexical, and semantic environments. And again, on the semantic and lexical, we're trying to ground all our concepts from other curated ontologies that are out there in the web, whether that's NASA's or Google's or others that we come across, the European Union's. So the technology stack behind the registries, it's really leveraging Elasticsearch and Java Spring framework, Helios, and Spring REST. There's a lot on this slide, so I give it a second. The standards framework, again, we're trying to leverage and adopt things that are already out there. We really do not want to create standards on our own. We know that we can't. So we're working with this list, and in likelihood where we find a gap in a standard, we'll work with that organization to try to fill that gap. So from an architecture standpoint, again, it's a multi-layered approach with APIs at several different levels. I think, as we roll out these APIs, it's going to be interesting to look at how we support the community and understanding how to leverage the vast set of services that are hidden within the APIs. Just checking for a question here.
Well, this is Rich. I have a question here, I guess, and maybe we'll get to it, but is this registry also going to have standard interfaces like OpenSearch and CSW?
So I don't know the answer, Rich, because this is the part that's still being baked. I think the intent is to keep it as open as humanly possible. The CSW piece is, again, we're going above and beyond existing catalogs in the approach here.
Okay. Is the metadata still is it in an ISO model, or it could be persisted to ISO, or?
That's the intent. There are some gaps in the ISO metadata model that we've identified, but the core is the ISO 191-935 or whatever. From a workflow, how it works with the existing agency's publishing model of metadata, we are under a constraint that we do not want to break those workflows with data.gov. So we will pull from data.gov and supplement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you're for instance, you might pull something from data.gov, but you have an additional service that you're providing, and that would be, if you were going to say, reproduce that ISO metadata, that would now include your new service that you provided. Is that
correct?
Okay.
Yep. Will metadata and metrics about previous searches results be available in a manual or API interface to learn, rank data sets of interest? So the registries themselves will store those attributes, and those attributes will be available through the APIs, if that answers your question. So here's just a mock-up of some of the auxiliary components of the registry that may come into play. So we talked about service reliability and the service checker, but there are other things. There may be policy-related artifacts that go along with an item. There might be access control things that go along with an item. Those are auxiliary components of that service or of the core registry. Those similarity indexes would be an example of an auxiliary resource coming into play. And that's kind of my conclusion. So think, if you want to open it up to questions, I know I went a little long here. I'm happy to do that. It's sometimes hard in the abstract to even grasp some of what I'm trying to communicate. Again, I think the best way to think about the future of the platform is that we really are trying to deliver a search and use experience for geospatial data that's more in line with what you get from commercial experiences, whether that's Google or Amazon.
Okay, so folks, that was great. Thank you so much. That's a lot of work. Actually, maybe I can just pop the first question while people are unmuting themselves or are getting ready to ask a question. You talked about service reliability. I'm wondering about Geoplatform reliability. So in contrast to data.gov, this is not a White House sort of driven thing, right?
Correct.
And so hopefully, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, our business model, I'll take a step back and talk about the business model, how the Geoplatform is supported. Right now, FGDC member agencies pay an annual fee to the FGDC. Part of that fee is my core base budget for the platform. That doesn't go away. Then other parts of the platform can get enhanced and are being enhanced by members collaborating with us for functionality that may initially be unique to their program or community, but later has viability to the platform as a whole. So for example, we worked closely with the DHS and NGA on making the high fields data open and available through services. And one of the things you'll see in our upcoming release is a community, the GeoConOps community, which is the first responders and those that are big consumers of the high fields data. Their collaboration environment is living on the platform and integrated into the platform. So that was an example where DHS had a need, they funded that need, and the capabilities were delivered in a way that could be extended to other parts of the platform. Some of the semantic work we're doing is now baked into a project that is much deeper pockets with the National Geospatial Agency. And again, working with NGA to make sure that as that program evolves and matures, the platform can benefit from the extra resources that they're putting in for more classified endeavors.
Great, that's the kind of affirmation I was looking for. It's not going to go away next year.
No.
Good.
And I think the other piece here, and I really didn't highlight it, is the work that Esri does with AGOL and our license to that environment is a huge value to the federal community that's not going away either. And the challenge is to find and stay within our appropriate swim lanes to let the commercial space evolve as it's going to evolve, and leverage what we can out of that and fill in gaps that those technology providers may not have filled yet. Great.
So anybody else have a question they want to ask Todd? You have to unmute yourself. Well, You know, Todd, if somebody wants to ask a question, I'm just thinking we have 15 minutes left. Would you be interested in giving a little demo, showing us something cool, or would you rather not do that?
I'd rather actually force people to go in on their own, just because, I mean, it sounds lame, but if you're like me, you've seen one geo viewer, map viewer, you've seen them all. And quite honestly, with the release that's out there, there is functionality, and we're helping the federal partners collaborate. But at this point, function-wise, it's not really going to be your go-to resource quite yet. And I'm saying that in all honesty. I use it, but if you look at our usage to date, it's not real high yet, because I think the challenge we're all faced with is still tackling that search side of things. So really, I would say release 5 is when we'll have functionality that's worth your group's time. But I welcome others to get in there and use it. I mean, we have new groups coming on board, seems like every day, that are doing really interesting things that, you know, they couldn't do with the resources that they had available to their own agency. And the takeaway I think I'd like to leave folks with is, if you have a program or project that spans federal communities and are challenged by your own identity and access controls within your own systems to onboard people outside your organization, that's the sweet spot right now for the Geo Platform. Because we can, you know, we can get you an ID and get you up and running on your project without the challenges you may have in your own organizations.
So maybe, you know, so USGS, you know, we have, well, we have something called ScienceBase. I don't know if you know about that, but it's something where we, you know, it seems maybe a little bit similar, I guess, for our folks, but, you know, where you upload data and it can become available through services, or you can just upload some metadata and improve it, and it'll provide a place to keep track of maybe services that exist elsewhere within the USGS, things like that. This would be, so Geoplatform could provide that kind of capability for folks who don't have something like ScienceBase.
Or even if you had ScienceBase and you wanted to integrate those services into a specific map view,
right,
targeted at a niche audience,
yep.
You know, you wanted to configure that view just for your area of interest with your layers of interest to get a specific message out. There's an example. You use ScienceBase just as you normally would, publish your services, then go into the Geo Platform using either AGOL or the map viewer, create the map that you're interested in, web map, and publish that to your community.
So Erin has a question here that she's wondering if anybody on the line has actually tried using Geo Platform, and if so, if they have any feedback. Has anybody tried it? Okay, sounds like maybe that's a no. I mean, actually, I have tried it, and that's kind of why I was interested in a demo, because I kind of the thing I tried to do, which was take a data.gov endpoint that I had found. I'd done a search on vessel density, and there was a WMS service, and then I wasn't sure how to put it on the map at Geoplatform, but I should be able to do that.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right.
I'm challenging.
It's always dangerous.
I'm challenging you. Yeah, forcing the demo. Yeah, woohoo.
right away, you get a different experience if you log in versus you don't log in. So you might want to register and log in.
Okay.
And right now, like, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I don't have anything in my map view that I don't want others to see, but you know what? I don't even want to go to this part.
Your map of all the Taco Bell locations.
Yeah. No, I actually think I had the fish shows on there. Now, oh, this is going to be hard with the little, there we go. So here's the reliability indicators coming right in for the base layers. And you had something called vessels.
Vessel density. There you go.
Oops.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so so the symbology looks like it got changed or something, or maybe. Okay. If can you yeah, like drill into Boston or something, some port. Okay. All right, I can see the ship tracks appearing. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that seemed pretty easy.
And we have no errors, so it's up and running. Then again, you know, you could save this map, and that's where once you have the map saved, then you can share it or export it, and you could put it into your gallery. So
Do you also have the ability to drop some random, you know, WF or WMS or WFS or Esri REST endpoint, or would you have to, if you had something that wasn't already here?
So if you had you could go right here and browse to add in a coverage service. You can also go in and add in actually, I think you do it through that coverage service. You can actually add a WMS endpoint instead of the service or the coverage service.
Okay.
And bring it in that way.
All right.
And again, I showed the map viewer. You could do the same thing through the AJOL account, just with more tools available in your map viewer.
Okay. Well, cool. That was actually helpful to see a little demo. I don't know why, but it's nice to kind of see it in action.
Okay. Well, I think the other thing when you think about the registry stuff I was explaining, when you're building this map, this will be populating the registry for the map. So that it becomes more than just the keywords in the metadata that helps you find it in the future or helps others find it. And the same goes for services.
Right. So does this replace GeoNode, or what's the role of GeoNode now that then we heard a talk on GeoNode a few months back?
Oh, what was the guy doing GeoNode?
John Giardini?
Yeah. I haven't talked to John since he migrated out of our cloud. I don't think he intends to drop his.
So
But I'm not.
yeah. So
It's a
GeoNode,
separate program.
right? Okay. But it would be, so GeoNode could still be another way that people, like maybe NGOs or something, could set up services and
Right.
collaborate with. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it's 4 minutes of three. So here on the East Coast, anyway. So thank you very much. It was great to see this good turnout, and thank you very much, Todd. That was really. Oh, you know, one last thing. How many people are on the Geo Platform team?
Oh,
It's probably hard to count, I guess.
On the government side, it's about four of us, and contract side, a bit more.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So thank you very much. That was really cool. I'm going to go play with this some more. We have a talk. Just a little plug for the talk next month. We have some guys from Sochib over in Spain who are doing some really cool stuff with their ocean observing system over there. They've done a neat little thing called Leaflet Time Dimension, which you know, everybody loves Leaflet, and this adds some cool time functionality that it really interacts well with time-dependent rasters or model output, and they've got a bunch of cool demos. So I think
does it hit directly against the WMTS?
Yes, well, it can hit a WMTS. It can hit also, you know, it can hit everything that Leaflet can hit. It can hit, but it can work with. They've got some demos with like Threads data servers and stuff like that. So they've got a bunch of different stuff. So and that will be, and that is going to be on. Let me just. That's going to be on May 12th. So check back with the ESIP. Hey, if you're not, well, I assume everybody on this call is probably on the ESIP mailing list, but we're probably going to send this out. We're for sure going to send it out to the IT&I mailing list, so get on that so you can get a reminder. And maybe Aaron will let us send it to ESIP all as well. But it's been a pleasure. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on May 12th. Thanks, Todd.
You're welcome. See you all.
Bye, everybody.